in the university had a quota of a number of words that you had to write in one semester, so many thousand words. So the instructor assigned us to write a page a day. Being a former jock, you know, I played basketball in high school, chased women. I thought it was stupid that we'd have to write a page a day. So what you do when you're that age and you're a former jock, you try to find ways around that. So I started writing poetry, one word per line. So when I handed it in, the instructor said, well, that's not really what I meant, but I didn't say you couldn't write poetry. You know, he was a poet too. I didn't say you couldn't write poetry. And furthermore, I didn't say you couldn't write poetry because I only had one word per line. So I got away with it. So I became a poet, honestly. And I started writing poetry. I got very interested in it and ended up publishing 4 books before it was over. And then later in life, I got interested in fiction. And I published about 18 or 19 stories, short fiction pieces. And then decided that I knew absolutely nothing about fiction. And that I needed to go back to school to learn about it. I knew some. But I just finished another degree, an MFA in creative writing in August. So at the age of 63. It's never too late. So I did a 54-hour graduate program with a thesis. It's pretty rigorous. But I did learn a lot. So some of the stories that were written as a result of having been in this MFA program, I have a collection of those. My thesis was what's called a creative thesis. It was a book of short stories. I had to write a book of short stories for my thesis. This one did not appear in the thesis, but it is a story that I wrote about my mother. My mother died November 13th, 2010, so it's been right about a year. And she actually was in the early stages of dementia. She died of cancer, but she was in the early stages of dementia. A very sharp woman, a former librarian, and a wonderful lady, really a wonderful lady, but she was in the early stages of dementia. This story is partly true and partly not true. Of course, that's what we do when we write fiction. We're allowed to lie some, illegal lies in fiction. So some of it's made up, but the core of it's probably true. I did have a sister who went down to take care of my mother during a period of time, and she actually called me. I was in Kenya. This is three years ago. I was there for about 8 or 9 weeks. And she called me and she was panicked. So this story is sort of based on that phone call that I got. But the characters are changed, their genders changed. It's called Slipping Away. And it's dedicated to those who struggle with dementia and Alzheimer's every day, and the family and friends who vigilantly care for them. Mother's been sitting in the driver's seat of her Mercury Marquis for the last 30 minutes with her arm around a mop head against the headrest, with its handle wedged between the glove compartment and stuck into the plush gray carpet of the floorboard. She's talking to it, whispering secrets into its imagined ear. Did you enjoy your trip to the Indianapolis 500, she said. I'm sorry I couldn't go. I'm sorry I couldn't go with you this year. As you know, I haven't felt well lately. And besides, it's my month to prepare the communion for church. Get the Welch's grape juice in all those teeny tiny glasses, and the stale midget cracker squares into the silver plates. I can't understand for the life of me why they can't get fresher crackers to represent the body of the Lord Jesus Christ. I'm standing just outside the open window with my hands on my hips, patting my right foot on the hot pavement of the driveway. Her eyes are avoiding me like a child who's trying to change the subject without saying anything. I've been at this for 2 weeks. Took off work for my job as a sales account executive in Louisville to come all the way to Eastern Kentucky to look after her. Mother, why don't you come inside and have your coffee, I say. It's beginning to heat up out here. I'm afraid you'll have a stroke. She finally turns her head and casts her left eye toward me. People of your generation have no idea how to deal with heat. Why, there was no air conditioning when I was growing up. Best thing we could muster was a funeral home fan or a folded newspaper. You don't know what hot is until you've prepared a meal for a dozen people in a kitchen with a coal cook stove in the middle of August, she says. Besides, your dad refuses to get out of the car. Even though his hair smells soured and needs washing. Remember, she's in there with a mop. I'm sure neither he nor your Uncle Leonard took a bath while they were at the race. I just can't leave him out here. He's probably upset that I didn't go with him this year. It comes with age, she says. She has leaned her head against the mop and her left hand is stroking the thick cotton strands. Mother, he'll come in when he's ready. By the way, one way to deal with Alzheimer's patients is you play along with them. You just have to be in their reality, whatever that reality is. So that's what she's doing. He'll come in when he's ready. You know how stubborn he is. Just roll down the window and he'll be just fine, I say. Well, I do have to tinkle, she says. Why she insists on using the expression of a teenage girl is beyond me. And by the way, real life, my mother said she did. In her 80s, she'd say, whatever. 88 years old, I'd say something to her. She'd say, well, whatever. So that sort of comes from that, I guess. She exits the car, walking with her thighs clamped together and her legs spread apart like she's shackled. After she goes to the bathroom, she forgets about the mop-head daddy. I get her settled in her favorite living room chair, go into the kitchen, pick up the telephone, and dial my brother James's number. He works the third shift at Ford Motor Company in Detroit. I glance at my watch while the phone is ringing. It's 10 a.m. and I know he's probably just getting home from his long nights. Someone picks up the phone. James, is that you? I ask. No, this is Charles, the voice says. Is that you, Aunt Judy? James's teenage son, Charles, sounds just like James. Daddy's right here. He just sat down to read the Detroit Free Press. I'll get him. Receiver bangs on against the counter. I hear muffled voices in the background, then quick footsteps coming toward the phone. Hello, baby sister. What can I do for you? Or better, what can I do you for? He says in his characteristic way of twisting words. You can bring me a pistol so I can blow my brains out, I say. I can't take this anymore. She's making me crazier than an outhouse rat. This is an old Appalachian expression James and I share, going back to before we had an indoor bathroom and had a path out back that led to a two-seater outdoor toilet. Old folks say that any rat that lived in the outhouse had to be crazy. And I guess that's why they would run directly toward you, and sometimes right up your leg. You haven't lived till you've been attacked by an outhouse rat, believe me. What's she done now, James asks. Well, she got me up at 3 a.m. in the morning, I say. What the hell for, he asks. Said I stopped up the commode. James tries to suppress a laugh. Her food that bad, he says. No, it wasn't that, I say in disgust. She stood there with her hair sticking up like Boo Radley in Kill a Mockingbird and said, I told you not to pour food down the commode. Now look at what you've done. You've stopped it up tighter than Dick's hatband. Can't you focus for more than a couple of minutes, I say? No. He says, by the way, who was Dick? And why was his hatband so tight? James asked, trying for a little comic relief. Can't you focus more than a couple of minutes, I say? I told Boo Mother I didn't pour food down the commode. I'm 30 years old and I know better than to pour food down a commode. Yes, you did, she says. I can see black olives floating around in there. She says in a voice that she gets when she thinks she's right and everybody else in the room is stupid. Boy, do we all know that voice, James says. I told her that I'd been here for 3 weeks and haven't eaten a single black olive. Well, they're in the commode. And the commode is stocked up, she says. And I haven't eaten any olives, so that just leaves you. There's only 2 of us. She looks at me like some redheaded stepchild and a voice like Linda Blair. She pokes me in the chest with her long, bony right index finger, and she bites down harder on the fist of her left hand. So we go into the bathroom, and there's water all over the place. I look down into the glorious pink porcelain hole right out of the 1960s, and I could plainly see an adult depend diaper sticking out like half of a soggy sock ball. So I get a metal coat hanger, and I straighten it out, leaving the hook intact. I started fishing around in the mess, ripping the adult diaper apart, pulling the pieces out and slinging them into the trash can. You can't imagine what it's like. You can't imagine what a gross job that was. It looked like an elephant had dumped in there. I can hear Jerry trying to suppress his precious pup laugh. little burst of chuckles erupting like bubbles in a pot of chili. Are you laughing, I asked? Because if you're laughing, you can just get your butt in the car and come down here. I don't find this the least bit funny. I'm sorry, Judy, but it is funny. If you think about it, he says. It's not funny if you're the one having to be down here and put up with all her hatefulness, I say. Let me finish telling you about this. It gets even worse. She goes off to the kitchen while I'm trying to extract the god-awful mess, and I hear her yell, I'm calling Jerry Cornett, the plumber, right now. 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to get him to come down here right now and fix what my dumbass daughter has torn up. I could hear her rummaging around trying to find her cell phone. Mind you, I tried to get her to keep a cell phone in a fanny pack. But she won't wear it. Half the time, she can't find the phone. It's buried in the mountains of unopened mail sitting on every counter, or it's fallen into the cracks between the couch cushions, or is up in some weird place like the condiment cabinet. I could hear her blow out a long breath when she found it. And then I heard her drop it to the floor. She let out a couple of, oh lordies, oh gods. She bent over to pick it up. And then after she retrieved it, she expelled another long venomous breath into the air inside the house, already toxic, with loads of them. I could hear her yelling into the phone at Jerry like he was in California or something. Is that you, Jerry? She yells. My dumbass Cindy Slicker daughter Judy has come down here and flushed food down the commode and stopped it up. She put her fat ass on the toilet seat and squirmed around until she busted the seal and there's water all over the bathroom floor. I heard her tell Jerry. I'm mortified. As you know, Jerry was one of my high school classmates. I went to the sophomore hop with Jerry. I can't imagine how big he thinks my ass is after she told him that.